Okay, well, let me start off by wishing everybody a very warm welcome to this afternoon's consultation, to everybody that's joined on Zoom, and for those who are on Facebook events, and later on will be watching on YouTube. We are very grateful to Christchurch in Petswood. I think we have 3 or 4 different Christchurches here today, but this one in particular, Petswood, because they are hosting this meeting on their Zoom account with Kat and Nadine doing the technical background. In some senses, COVID-19 has taken us all a little bit by surprise. I think that would be an understatement. But we know that now more than ever, it is our solidarity and our relationships that will see us through into God's future for fullness of life. And we are very grateful to every single person here for your determination and your support for Christian Aid, many of you through Commitment for Life and various other organizations in support of our partner regions. Now more than ever, we need Christian Aid to do the work of justice at a time when we are really concerned about the massive increase in the suffering around the world. And I'm going to hand over to John Plant in a moment to introduce himself and to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. John will be talking, it's a PowerPoint presentation, and there are some video clips that hopefully will be okay to share. But before I open up in prayer, I'm going to just say to you, in the bottom of your screen, you'll see there's a chat function. So you'll see, if you tap the chat function, I don't quite know how that works on an iPad, but if you could work that out, at the bottom you'll see everyone. You could put to everyone. Or you can type it directly to me, Kevin Sneyman, and you can type your questions for John in there. I'll be moderating that, and hopefully, with a bit of luck, we will be able to get to them a little bit later. So if you want to try that. And also, if you happen to like what you're hearing, you will see also at the bottom of your screen, there's a reaction button. So if you hover your mouse over there, you can clap your hands, and you can give us all a thumbs up. Do you want to give that a try? We're going to be hearing from John Plant soon. Thumbs up. Okay, excellent. So that's your questions and your reactions at any time. And obviously, if you want to have conversations with one another, feel free to do that. This is interactive. So let us begin then with our gathering prayer, which comes from this year's Christian Aid Week, which is quite appropriate. So let us take a moment for our gathering prayer before I hand over to John. God of all the earth, be present with us now in each of our homes as we connect together. Build us into a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to you through Jesus Christ, our risen God, our friend, and our healer. Amen. Over to you, John.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is really lovely to be able to join you this afternoon. And kind of oddly, one of the sort of benefits, I guess, of this really odd situation that we're in, that perhaps we wouldn't have met like this if it hadn't been for coronavirus and the lockdown. So this is brilliant. As Kevin said, my name's John. I'm the National Church Relations Lead for Christian Aid. And I wanted to start off by apologising to anybody coming from Wales or Scotland that I'm not joined by colleagues this afternoon from Scotland and Wales. And that's for reasons I'll explain later on. They simply weren't able to join us just at the moment, but really keen to hear from any churches in either Wales or Scotland who want to contact them directly. I just wanted to talk to you this afternoon about some changes that have been going on in Christian Aid recently, but also about how we're responding to the coronavirus pandemic. And I wanted to start by introducing our new global strategy. Christian Aid's been reflecting on 3 questions. What is it that binds us together as an organization globally? What pulls us together and makes us Christian Aid? And how do we make the most impact? Because we're not a huge organization, and therefore we've got to be careful that what we do is really strategically focused. And finally, why is our Christian bit of Christian Aid so fundamental to who we are and our identity. And I'm going to hand over to Amanda McQuashie, who's Christian Aid's CEO, in this video clip to talk about our new global strategy, Standing Together.
Christian Aid is on a journey. It's on a journey to build a world free from poverty and need. We stand together for a world built on love, dignity, equality, and justice. Our work is focused on 3 pillars: poverty, power, and prophetic voice. We work with some of the poorest of the poor in some of the hardest to reach places across the world. We collaborate with nearly 500 partner organizations in more than 30 countries to deliver life-saving programs. Extreme poverty robs people of their dignity and denies them their rights. It renders them powerless, unrepresented, and vulnerable to abuse. In Latin America, we are helping cocoa farmers and honey producers to adapt to climate change and build their yields, giving them the chance to take control over their financial futures. When emergencies take place, we are there. Violence in countries like Myanmar and Nigeria has displaced hundreds of thousands of people. With our partners, we provide food, clothing, and medical care to those most affected by insurgency and political violence. When natural disasters strike in countries like Haiti and the Philippines, our partners and our local teams are among the first on the ground to provide emergency relief and support. We believe that poverty is political. We fight to help people gain that power and reclaim their dignity. Our programs in Ethiopia, in Burkina Faso and Malawi have helped women set up their own businesses, making them financially independent and giving them a greater say in society. And in every district in Sierra Leone, we help local people claim their rights to better services, such as access to water, healthcare, and education. Christian Aid works with those who have been silenced to find their voices. We stand together with people living in despair to speak out against injustice. We create and are part of global movements of people who will speak truth to power. Global movements of people and communities who can secure the changes that are needed. And together, our voices will be heard. We are working tirelessly to make sure that development is sustainable and is not at the expense of the most vulnerable people in our communities. Our work as Christian Aid has never been more important or necessary. So join us now as we stand together to help people live life in its fullness. We believe the almighty power of people can make a world in which dignity, equality, and justice is experienced by everyone.
And I think the really critical word in that is when Amanda talks about we. She means us, all of us, because it's the extraordinary power of the churches that is kind of the we of this is what we do, this is what we make possible as churches and congregations across the UK. Standing Together looked at Christian Aid's work and across our international footprint thought what we need to do is to go narrower rather than wider, narrow so that we can go deeper. And that's meant that we've kind of withdrawn from some countries. And I think for some people, withdrawing from countries somehow looked like a kind of failure for Christian Aid, whereas actually we were reflecting and saying withdrawal should look like success, because Christian Aid oughtn't to be present. You know, we're trying to empower communities to stand on their own. So and doing that means at some point you have to say, well, thanks, we've now managed to do that, and actually you can stand on your own, which is brilliant. So it's a sign of success as well. But also within Christian Aid in the UK, what we've done is we've wanted to focus especially on supporting churches. And we're doing that in 2 ways. We've got 2 new teams to support support churches in the UK. They're the people who, if you're a local church, those are my colleagues who will be speaking to you. And we've got a new national churches team that I'm part of that kind of engages with our church denominations across England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. But of course, just at the moment when we were sort of launching, standing together and starting to kind of pull together the new teams that were going to make that happen, then the coronavirus impacted us all. And that's had a huge impact, I don't need to tell you about that. First, it has increased the need of our international partners because, as you well know, where Christian Aid works, we're working in fragile economies, and we can see how the UK and other European countries, rich countries, have really struggled with the impact of coronavirus. So we don't need to imagine very much what the impact of that looks like on poor countries. And this has happened at a time when the churches, our main supporters, as I said, are in some ways at their most vulnerable because churches aren't able to meet together, aren't able to do all the things that churches normally do in responding to emergencies like fundraising and organizing fundraising events. So it has been and is really challenging. So in the face of that, Christian Aid has had to take a number of very immediate, urgent decisions. The first one is to protect its international program. We furloughed now 20% of all of our UK staff. So we haven't furloughed any kind of international staff, but in the UK, 20% of our UK staff are now furloughed. And those staff who are remaining are now on 4-day weeks, which means for those of us who are left, we are slightly stretched, which, going back to what I said about my colleagues in Scotland and Wales, the reason partly they couldn't be here is just because we're trying to do too many things at the moment, so they're apologising for that. But I wanted to just give an update as well on what the impact of coronavirus looks like in our 4 countries that we can particularly specify for commitment for life. And you might know that the kind of internationally, the impact of the coronavirus is behind where we are in Europe. So this is in a way slightly looking ahead to and preparing for the impacts. But in Bangladesh, as you can imagine, particularly in our refugee camps where we've got over 350,000 people in a very small space, things like social distancing are almost impossible. So in Bangladesh, what the teams have done there is respond really quickly to make sure that all frontline workers have the PPE equipment that they need. And in fact, our teams have been really smart because what they've done with the country program is to be nimble and adapt the country program. So it is the program itself that is responding to that. And in the next slide, you can see here, this is one of our partners in Bangladesh, where women with disabilities who we've been supporting in any case are now refocusing their work to creating masks and PPE equipment, which is just brilliant. In Zimbabwe and in Israel and the occupied territories, what you see is the kind of travel restrictions that we've got in the UK, but in often cases, those are more severely impressed. So in Zimbabwe, for example, there's been stories about beatings and arrests as people have been traveling around. So far, not for our team, thankfully, but our team are very cautious about traveling, and that's made working with our partners on the ground challenging. There's food shortages, and people trying to get food is really difficult. And as well as that, thinking particularly of Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories, of course, all the other issues that we were so much aware of continue. And at the moment, what's happening is some of those human rights abuses that we are so concerned of are continuing, but actually the global attention is not picking that up because people are so focused on coronavirus, they're not noticing. So occupations going on in the West Bank and so forth. So a real need for us as churches to be keeping these countries in our prayer and being alert to what's going on so that we can offer solidarity to those most affected by some of those abuses in those countries. And my colleague, Tanya Grande from El Salvador, wanted to share this update directly with you.
Hi there, this is Tanya Grande from the land of Romero, El Salvador, and today I want to thank you at Commitment for Life for all the ongoing support you give to El Salvador, especially during these times of COVID-19, where a real crisis is ongoing around the world. Here in El Salvador, thanks to your help, we've been able to support 1,000 families thanks to 3 partners that we have here, ISD, FESPAD, and Ormusa. Actually, the people that we're helping are in some of the most impoverished areas of the country, and also we are placing a priority on women that are at higher risk of suffering violence in their own houses. Our partner Ormusa actually registered an increase of 300% in the calls of help that they receive to provide legal support to women. So your help is actually making a difference at this time. Also, we know that the government is not doing the best job at the pandemic. They are actually trying to take advantage to put some authoritarian measures, for instance, blockaging freedom of press, which is starting to really concern civil society. Also, some violations to human rights take place. For instance, illegal detention is something that has been going on and still goes on. So for Christian Aid, it's very important that you keep El Salvador in your prayers, that you keep El Salvador in your thoughts. And we are definitely just starting a period of really strong economic crisis where thousands of people have lost their jobs, their incomes, and this is very concerning, as also the time to recoup from this crisis will probably take months and even years. So thanks a lot for your support, and we wish you all the best there also in the UK. We wish you all the best with the pandemic, with your family and your church. Thank you and greetings from El Salvador.
Thank you, and greetings from Tanya's dog there as well, by the sounds of things, which is brilliant. So we've all seen the kind of eye-watering amounts of money that our UK government is spending in response to the pandemic in this country. So you can imagine what the need is in kind of some of the poor countries like El Salvador to be able to, for government to be able to spend money on healthcare and the responses that are needed. In order to make that possible, we've started a campaign as Christian Aid calling for the UK government and other rich countries to cancel the debt of some of the poorest countries of the world, so that instead of repaying their debt to us, they can actually use that money to deal with the crisis that they're facing at the moment. And if you want to join in with that, all of these resources are online, and it's one of the things we can do from our homes, just kind of raise our voices in that space. So finding Christian Aid Week, which obviously starts on Sunday, but is going to look very different to the normal door-to-door type collections and church-based events that we're used to seeing for Christian Aid Week. Everything is moving online, just like this meeting, and it's going to start with a service on Sunday with Rowan Williams preaching in it. And then each day, if you want to join, there'll be daily reflections. There's all sorts of worship resources there on the Christian Aid webpage. If you're a worship leader or responsible for putting worship together, then all sorts of things there for you. And if you're just at home and thinking, I'd just like to do something, then there's all kinds of quizzes as well that you can join in with. Plus, there's an e-envelope. So if you thought, well, how are we going to manage without the kind of the normal Christian Aid envelope? Well, there's an e-envelope, and if you go online, you can see how that works. Plus, of course, a host of other suggestions for how churches and others can do fundraising online. So I wanted to pause there, but before we hand over to questions, I just wanted to say to you, thank you, because the support of the URC Church is so critical to Christian Aid, and Commitment for Life is just fantastic. Commitment for Life is our biggest denominational appeal and really makes a difference to people. And just to share one story, when I was in El Salvador, I was talking to some of the partners that you support, and they were asking me, they were saying to me, thank you to Christian Aid for this money. Thank you for your support. And I said, do you know where the money comes from? And they said, well, we presume it comes from the UK government. And I said, no, it comes from ordinary people in churches in the UK. And they honestly, the look on their faces, they could not have been more surprised by that. And I thought that is a really tangible sign of when we say, we as Christian Aid, this is the difference we're making. That really spoke to me and to them. That's the difference that we make in the world. So thank you for that.
Okay. John, thank you so much for sharing that. Just before we continue, Nadine is going to share something that you shared with me for this meeting. So shall we just take a moment to listen to this, the most beautiful song? So let's take some time to listen to that.
I have a voice, you have a voice, we have a voice, and when we sing together, a line is drawn and hope reborn. This is the song of kingdom come. I have a voice, you have a voice, we have a voice, when we sing together, a line is drawn and hope reborn. This is the song of kingdom come. We heard the cries of distant neighbors, the dispossessed, the refugee, and God's command to feed the hungry and set them free, and set them free. We heard the word, the new commandment, and we reclaimed the prophet's call to love the world without condition. God's love for all, God's love for all. I have a voice, you have a voice, we have a voice. When we sing together, the line is drawn and hope reborn. This is the song of kingdom come. A reckless love that knows no borders, that speaks the truth to those in power, that shines a light on cruel indifference. This is God's hour, this is God's hour, when we will stand against injustice with all who live against the grain, until their poverty is over, and love shall reign, and love shall reign. I have a voice, you have a voice, we have a voice. When we sing together, the line is drawn and hope reborn. This is the song of kingdom come. We won't stand by while sisters suffer, nor turn blind God's masterpiece. I have a voice, you have a voice, we have a voice. When we sing together, a line is drawn and hope reborn. This is the song of kingdom come. I have a voice, you have a voice, we have a voice. When we sing together, a line is drawn and hope reborn. This is the song of kingdom come. This is the song of kingdom come.
I don't quite know if that's still on the website, John.
It is on the website, but it's I think the version we've just seen is edited because I think it was for Christian Aid Week 2018. So you can definitely find it on the website. And if any, I will share. Well, Kevin, you have the link that we can share, and of course it's written by Martin John Nichols from Southwest Synod.
Yes, okay. And so if any, I know that Christchurch and Pettswood will be using it in their online service this week. And if anybody else would like access to that video, I could send you the link. And also, if you need if you don't know how to download it yourself, I actually have the file as well. So I could share that with you. So just let me know if you would like that. Okay. So we've invited everybody just to reiterate that on the in the chat function, there's the opportunity for you to ask some questions. And I have got one question so far, John, for you that I can see, and of course more are going to come in a moment. Where can we find the video? And this was when you were playing the original video with Amanda and other resources.
So all of those resources are on the Christian Age YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and type in Christian Aid, you should find all the videos appear. And that video is called Standing Together, Christian Aid's Global Strategy, I think.
Right. And I've got some several people are asking me, that's just saying that they would like Ulrika, and a few other people saying that they would like the link. I don't know that I'm going to have access to this chat function afterwards. I may do, but I'm going to give my email at the end of the session for you to email me, and then that's easy for me to send you to a SharePoint link or something like that. So that might be what I'm going to do to the end. Are there any other questions? And thanks for the helpful video information to where the money goes. I've made notes and passing on to our congregation. Thank you to Peter for saying that. It's okay, I can take it from YouTube, says Ulrika. That's great. How will Christian Aid's engagement with young people be impacted in the new strategy? That's a great question, and that comes from Tom Hackett. How will Christian Aid's engagement with young people be impacted in the new strategy? Will the Christian Aid Collective be continuing? John.
And Tom, that is a really good question. Of course, Tom's an expert on this. So Tom, the short answer to that is I'm not sure in detail. Some of the team is actually being expanded in Christian Aid, particularly to focus on schools. So I'm not absolutely certain what's going to happen with the collective. One of the challenges that's happened, as I mentioned, is because the new structure was just emerging when we went into our coronavirus response, that all of that is still to unfold for us to see. So I'm not absolutely certain where that stands at the moment.
I don't see Tom anywhere. Tom, maybe you could just unmute yourself by pressing your space bar and just saying if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's good to know that. Yeah, thanks, John.
Thank you, Tom. And David has asked for a little bit more information on Rowan's sermon. I presume he's asking where they might be able to find it and when. John?
Yes, if you go to the Christian Aid Week web page with all the information, then as soon as it's available, Rowan's sermon will be available to be downloaded. So it's going to be live in the service, obviously, but if you want to use it at a different point, the sermon will be there, so you can use it in online services yourself. Now, I hadn't checked just before we met, but I know colleagues are working on that at the moment.
Great. Mike Dennis says they've used the song at Tavistock URC with a similar sideshow and would like the link, as well as Andy. Again, I will give you my email address towards the end, and if you'd send that request by email, that's going to help me a lot better to link you to where I'll have it on SharePoint.
And I can see Jean saying that Rowan's sermon is on the website.
Oh.
Hooray.
Oh, I see. It's already there. Okay. Well, there we go. If anybody is needing a sermon for Sunday, they haven't got one yet, they can always use that for the service on Sunday. Okay, great. Are there any more questions? I think we're up to speed on everyone. Any final thoughts, John, from you?
Other than to say thank you, and please do look at those resources. As you can imagine, you know, the need for us this year in Christian Aid Week is just greater than ever. So I think if we've learned one thing through the coronavirus, is it's just how much we depend on one another and need the support of each other. And I think at the moment, Christian Aid is especially mindful of just how much it depends on the churches for their support at the moment. So anything that people can do is really gratefully received, whether that's prayer or giving or action in supporting that online petition. Anything is really grateful. And if there are things that people feel that Christian Aid can do to support churches more, then please do let us know, because we're really grateful and happy to kind of respond where we can.
Okay, thank you very much for that, John. A few more questions have come in, but I think we're going to bring it to an end there.
And may I, should I, sorry, I should have just said, Kevin, though this is obviously uncertain, as we don't know what's going to happen with the sort of lockdown, is there was some thought to moving some of the fundraising activities to September, so there may be opportunities in September. But at the moment, it's still looking as if social distancing and so forth might apply even into September. So
right.
Please watch this space.
Okay. I mean, I can see some questions coming up here about resources where they can be found, and perhaps some questions about how we engage with Christian Aid Week online as opposed to the way that we've normally do it. Is there hope of having an event later in the year, such as bridge walks, book sales, etc.? Kathleen Ziffo asks from Edinburgh.
I mean, the book sale in Scotland is just a huge event, and obviously that's had to be postponed at the moment just because of the problems of actually putting that together. But I'm sure that's going to happen as soon as it's possible to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to now give my email. What is the title of Amanda McQuash's video, please, to help find it? John, while I'm typing my email, if you'd answer that question, the title to Amanda's video.
I think it's Standing Together, Kevin, but I'll have to double check on YouTube. So perhaps I could also share that with you as well, to share with anybody who's wanting that.
Stall Speed, Christian Aid's having a quiz night. I know that there are all sorts of things happening, so we perhaps if there's an opportunity to talk about this at another stage, what people are doing. I know that Christchurch, because my wife happens to be the minister, within 24 hours of putting out a call to Christian Aid, they'd raised almost £1,000. So they're very lucky to be able to do that. Of course, not everybody can do that, of course, but we're very grateful for people's generosity there. Let me end by saying the blessing that comes from the Christian Aid service, and then I'm going to ask Kat to unmute everybody so we can. It's going to be a cacophony, but I'm going to enjoy it. after the blessing to say the grace to and for one another. Can we do that? Receive God's blessing. May the presence of the Creator refresh you. May the comfort of the Son renew you. May the inspiration of the Spirit restore you to be love in action, even from a distance, in our neighborhoods, near and far, this day and forevermore. And let us say the grace to and for one another.
We say the grace.
The grace
of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God,
Fellowship
and fellowship with the Holy Spirit, be with us now.
The Holy Spirit.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much to John.